So, Mr. Dolce, how are you today?
I am very good. Hello, everyone.
Today we're going to talk about some things that we don't like about Battlefield 4. It's kind of like at the end of its life cycle now. I mean, we know there's extended support, but we're kind of at the point where it was intended to finish. So we want to talk about some really bad things about Battlefield 4. We'll do some good stuff in another video, but we'll focus on the bad stuff for now.
Yeah.
I mean, I think before we started, Dolce, you mentioned the dreaded netcode.
Yes. I think we've all had nightmares about the horrible netcode. It is a lot better now though. Like if you look at how the netcode is now compared to how it was in the beginning, I mean we're miles ahead now, and I'm so happy that it works now. Like I can jump on a game of Battlefield and really enjoy myself. Like I'll not go, oh that was bullshit, that kill was bullshit, that kill was not his. I don't really run into those issues anymore. I mean, you'll still get the trades, but for the most part, it runs okay for me.
And I mean, that's the key factor, that they've made like progress throughout the game, and now, yeah, it's great that you can jump on and you can have a game. But I mean, I remember the first few games I ever played of BF4. I mean, I like the close quarters infantry style, so I jumped into Conquest to start with, thinking like, oh, this is amazing. Right, I'll go and play some TDM. And that's where it all fell apart for me, because the close quarters aspect of it, you're only 10 feet from somebody and you could so easily tell that there was just something not quite right, and that was the most infuriating thing for me. It was not the fact that I could wait a second and die around a corner, but knowing I should get a kill and then not getting it was the most infuriating part for me.
Yeah, it was. It's the worst, but I'm so glad that it's gotten a lot better. I mean, it's not perfect, but I like what they've done, especially with CT as well. Like, I like all the changes that they've implemented, and this goes to show, and I've said this multiple times, this goes to show that they did not launch their product knowing that this was an issue. I think they just weren't aware of it. And when all the people logged on and like all this load came on the servers and everything on the game,
yeah,
that's when they saw this massive netcode issue, and they were like, oh, what the hell are we gonna do? And I really like what they did with CTE, and they kept trying to fix the game. Like, I don't think I've seen any dev being so dedicated to fixing the issues as DICE have been doing it, or DICE LA. I
mean, you can apply that to some other situations. I mean, like when we were saying that they improve throughout the game, or you're saying like servers taking heavy load. It's the same with like the selection of weapons. Do you feel like, I mean, everyone said this, but the explosive spam when the game first came out was beyond belief.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the screen shake was the worst part. I mean, I could deal with explosions going off as long as my screen's not going all over the place, but the screen shake was so intense on infantry maps. Like, you couldn't play a game of Locker properly without the screen just going all over the place. It was a nightmare.
It was horrible. It was horrible, especially when you were ADSing trying to take someone out. All of a sudden, you have a million grenades going off everywhere. It's just impossible. Your bullets are flying everywhere. And then we had the visual recoil as well. That was added on top.
Oh god, I mean, the fact that nobody really noticed it until the devs actually said, oh yeah, there's some extra recoil on top of the values that you're looking at, and it's like, hang on a minute, so you're telling me that my bullets aren't actually going where the crosshairs are? That's ridiculous. I mean, if you play now, I think the IRNV scope still has visual recoil. They couldn't remove it for that. If you try and play with that now, you know, like in the night map event that we were in, it's a nightmare to try and play with those scopes. It just goes all over the place, and you have no control now because you're so used to where your bullets go now that if you try and use anything else, it's a bit of a nightmare.
I did actually notice that. Yeah, it bounces around a little bit.
Yeah, it can be really, really frustrating because surely wherever you're aiming, your bullets should be going. Within reason, obviously, you've got the latency issues, but in theory, where you shoot, your bullets should go, and that really wasn't the case when BF4 launched.
Yeah, it was really strange, and I thought it was just, you know, recoil, like the weapon recoil. But if you look back, it was really strange how it looked. Like, you had the sides bouncing around like crazy, and then you had your bullets going in different directions. It just didn't add up at all.
Yeah, I mean,
it just looked really strange. But I never really thought anything of it. I just thought, yeah, that's how recoil works.
And yeah, it took the devs to reveal it, which is kind of frustrating for me because it's like, how did we just put up with that until somebody told us about it? And it's like, well, we really should have thought about it first. But I think you mentioned Rush as one of the things that you were disappointed with.
I was disappointed with Rush and the imbalance issues and the way the maps were laid out. I mean, I love the maps in Battlefield 4. They look great. They have an insane amount of detail on them. But the way they like laid the spawns out and the objectives, like I don't really think they put a lot of thought into properly balancing the game when it comes to Rush. And even things like Obliteration. I like the attempt and I like what they're trying to do with Obliteration, but it's not really there yet. And I think, going back to Hardline now, I think in Hardline they're really going to try and perfect that. They're really focusing on improving the gameplay, essentially, and balancing everything out.
Yeah, I mean, looking at BF3 and Bad Company 2, those were some great games for Rush. And I mean, I think Rush was only introduced with the original Bad Company game, so it's not actually much of an old game mode, but it's still now a staple, I'd say, of Battlefield. And it's really disappointing to see that perhaps just the maps are designed with Conquest in mind, and that's fine, but if you want to create a good Rush map, don't shoehorn it onto a map where it doesn't fit, because that's the worst part of it. When you try and force it into a map that it just didn't work with, like Silk Road, no cover whatsoever. Okay, let's stick Rush on it. That was the worst decision ever. I know.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah,
it might be a selling point. It might be, oh yeah, you can play all maps on all modes, but at the same time, it's like, I'd rather play Rush on a good map than have it shoehorned onto 25 really rubbish maps.
Yeah, exactly. I think you're right there. I think they pretty much made the maps with the thought of, yeah, this will work for Conquest, and then they sort of like try to trim it down and like find a way to lay it out for Rush. I think that's the way they did it. Yeah, which could work out, but it also, you know, it could not, like it did in Battlefield 4. I mean, not all of the maps are horrible, but some of them are like really imbalanced. And we've seen them change things up multiple times, like giving a certain team an extra LAV, taking away choppers, putting in choppers, adding tickets, decreasing the tickets, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
It's still not on point, but I can still enjoy a good game of Rush. But then again, yeah, I mean, it's still fairly unbalanced at the moment.
Yeah, and there are so many other bad things that happened with Battlefield 4. I'd argue that the Commander just isn't that great. I could do without it, and the fact that it has the UAV scan makes it extremely overpowered. And like adding that to Rush, you know, like Commander, I think is it turned off for Rush now? I can't remember, but the UAV scan on Rush, if the enemy commander dropped one and you were going on an epic flank with your silencer, it didn't matter anymore because you were just lit up to the whole team, and it's like, okay, thanks. I've just like spent 3 minutes flanking the enemy, and now I just got shot in the back because everyone knows where I am. So that's something that really griped on me as well.
Yeah, true. And I remember the MVP being lit up all the time. Is that still a thing? I don't think it is.
I don't know. I mean, I think a lot of the UI tweaks have changed that a bit, because I know for a fact that if I'm not zoomed in on an enemy target, that it only sits at about 65% opacity. And I think that's done a lot to remove the fact that it's so like present on the HUD all the time. So that's probably a good thing about Battlefield 4. Wow, something good.
Yeah, true. Yeah. No, but that's something that I really did not like, was the fact that it lit up like the best enemy player, or you know, it lit up you constantly because you were doing really well in game, and it rewards you with punishment, essentially, and death. I really wasn't a fan of that, and that's something else that I don't like about Battlefield sometimes. There's too much information going on, and I feel that it might detract some people from the objective, because you see everyone saying that people should play the objective, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, sure, but there's just too much information on the screen sometimes. There's just too much going on. There's explosions, there's all sorts of stuff. Yeah, like the MVP, like the little MVP symbol showing up.
Yeah,
I don't know, sometimes I think that it can be a little bit confusing for the player.
Definitely. I'd say the HUD's just too cluttered. They've done a great bit of work with that, and we'll probably talk about that in our good video, but overall, that I still don't think the HUD is anywhere near as good as some of the previous titles.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But anyway, thanks for having a chat with me.
It was my pleasure.
So there you have it. Some bad things about Battlefield 4. As I said, it wasn't hard to come up with that list. If you want to check out the good video, which I released last week, you can check that out by heading into the description. There's a link there for you. It will be linked at the end of the video too. And if you head into the description a little bit further, you'll find Dolce's channel, and I highly recommend you subscribe to him. He's a really good friend of mine, and he makes some absolutely fantastic looking videos. And my god, that voice. Oh. But thank you very much for watching today. I hope you enjoyed the video. if you did, if you could leave me a rating, that'd be fantastic. And comments are always appreciated. But until next time, my name is Westie, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.